is handwriting the first thing you ditch when you run out of time too? Our handwriting curriculum was great, and it had its own scope and sequence. And I thought, you know, I'm sure there was a great research-based reason behind that scope and sequence. But it was one more thing I felt like I needed to memorize and deliver with fidelity. And I usually just threw the handwriting pages at them during their independent work time and said, there, I'm done, I've done handwriting. But something just didn't feel right about that. And you could be wondering, do kids even need handwriting anymore? With everything else that I have to teach in a day, that is always the first to go. Until I saw the difference it made in letter and sound learning. But how do you even incorporate this into phonics time? Stay right here to find out how I make this work and capitalize on writing instruction for better letter learning. Hi, I'm Sarah, a first grade teacher that had big dreams as a girl of being a best-selling author, and now I love to teach the littlest of kids how to read by writing. And I'm here on the internet to share it all with you in videos. If you want to learn more about how I use writing instruction to strengthen reading, make sure you check out the links to the freebies in the description, especially the free workshop. Obviously, I love using writing instruction to get better results in reading. And the first step in both reading and writing is tackling the alphabet. But is there a fast, efficient way to teach kids to read and write the alphabet at the same time? Yes. And I have three. I have three main tricks up my sleeve when getting this big job done. And they are sign language, handwriting, and embedded picture cues. When I started using all three of these together to teach letters and sounds, I started seeing real progress with kids of all levels. I've already shared about embedded picture cues and sign language in previous videos, so make sure you go check those out. But today is all about handwriting, my favorite, how it helps, how I use it, and I'm always going to make sure to throw in how it can be done in a way that nobody will be offended about what I'm doing or not doing with fidelity. We all like our jobs, we want to keep doing them, so do your district stuff with fidelity, but if you can find a little extra way to throw in some extra support for students that need it, there's not one person that is going to really argue that with you. So handwriting to learn letters. Learning letters is a big job, and I like to give kids as many tricks as I can to help them learn all of them quickly. I think handwriting is a way to put a physical movement to the letter in the same way I use sign language to link letter and sound in a physical way. Many phonics curricula use some kind of physical movement to help the kids link the sounds to letters to better market their curriculum as multisensory. So this is nothing new. I do the same thing, but in a way that capitalizes on writing instruction, which is definitely my favorite thing to talk about and my favorite thing to do. So I'm begging you not to disregard handwriting because of the role technology plays in our daily lives now, but instead think of handwriting as a way to solidify the learning of letter sounds, kind of like taking notes by hand can help with learning different concepts. If you're typing or transcribing in some way every single word of a lecture, you're just pretty much copying the lecture. You're not summarizing, paraphrasing, synthesizing, and deciding on key ideas. You aren't doing all those things that we say readers do to help us learn difficult concepts. And yes, technology has some amazing tools that can take notes for you, and they can help us learn things, and they're all great. I love using technology to make my life easier, but I know and have seen how writing can help students of all ages learn. Note-taking helps with new concepts, and journaling helps us process feelings and life circumstances. And I've noticed that handwriting does the same thing when a young child is learning letters and sounds. But you've got to think of it as a means to an end and not the end goal itself. When I was passing out handwriting papers and asking them to trace during stations, I was missing out on a huge opportunity. I was just teaching them to write the letters correctly, and while that is so important and it's a good thing, I don't want to teach just handwriting just to have good handwriting, though it is a big deal. I want to teach handwriting because it frees up cognitive space so they don't have to think about letter formation, and it helps them learn letters and sounds. So this is how I use it. I decided one day I'm not getting to handwriting anyway, so I'm just going to include it in my phonics lesson. I know handwriting has its own scope and sequence, and I'm sure it's based on the simple strokes and builds up, and it's probably great, but that's absolutely no help when I'm not even able to get to that part of the day anyway. And I figured this was better than no handwriting instruction at all. So if you struggle to get handwriting done too, I want you to consider doing it as a part of your letter introduction. After we quickly talk about letters and sounds, I go into how to sign it, and then I go into how to make the strokes of the letter, where to start, and how to finish the letter. So I go over the verbal path, and I mention where the letter sits on the handwriting lines, and this is how you can incorporate that adopted curriculum if you need to. Use their verbal path. Use their words as you introduce how this letter looks in a word. First, I usually show them how to write the letter correctly on the handwriting lines on the board. I describe the required verbal path, or I just casually talk with them about how it feels. So for a letter A, I could say, you start at the top and you curve around and you curve back up. Then you all the way back up to the top and you make a stick back down. And you keep your marker or your pencil on the paper the whole time. And then we'll skywrite it together a few times with our hands up in the air, or you can do it on each other's backs, or you can do it on each other's hands. That would be the we do. And then you would go to doing it on your whiteboard or a little handwriting page like this inside a sheet protector in your binder. And when I have them do that, we all say together, okay guys, we're gonna write the letter A. We're all gonna do this together. I want you to put your marker where it belongs. It belongs a little bit under the dashed line, just like I just showed you in the I do. Now I want you to curve, and then I say, what's the letter name? A. What's the short A sound? Ah. Okay, let's do it. Start a little under, curve it around, up and down, and we would do it together. And then I say, okay, move over a little bit. What's the letter name? A. What's the sound? Ah. Curve around, up, down, let's do it together. And then we would say the letter name, the sound, we would do the stroke. Letter name, letter sound, do the letter. I do all this with a dry erase board and a large dry erase marker because I've noticed this big marker is easier for them to hold, and it's that free flowing marker allows them to take a little needed break from having to add the pressure. Now, if you feel strongly they need to get that practice with a pencil and a paper sitting in a desk, you do what you feel like is best for your class. But I'm going to go back to the idea that what I'm doing on the carpet with a board during phonics time is better than letting go of handwriting completely, which is what I was doing before. I always had the best of intentions, but sadly, getting to everything with limited time was always my biggest struggle, and handwriting was always the first thing to go for me. If you don't have the freedom to use handwriting during phonics, then you can just do as I suggested with the embedded mnemonics and the sign language. Use it during small groups with the students that are still struggling after using the curriculum that you're required to use in large group. Get creative, find a way to get kids what they need. That is always going to work best. And when you're getting kids what they need, kids are learning to read. And when kids are learning to read and write, administrators are going to be happy. Many people talk a lot about how the picture cues needed to be adopted school-wide, and while I totally understand that idea, I will use the school-wide picture cues. But I don't see why we can't introduce one more trick if what we're doing with that agreed upon curriculum or agreed upon a vertical alignment thing isn't quite working well for some students. I'm going to give them more time at the table, more tricks, more movement, more tools for success. The bottom line, and sometimes unpopular truth about my classroom, nothing will prevent me from giving a child what they need to read and write. But if you have something you think might help your students, find a way to give it to them. It could just make their jobs easier, which is going to make your job easier. So now we've talked about the 3 tricks that I use to teach letter sounds fast. Make sure you check out the full free workshop to learn more about it all and how it all comes together to teach kids to read by writing. And down in the description, you'll find links to stay updated on other freebies and resources, so don't miss out on any of that good stuff. And make sure you come back next time where I'll briefly walk through how I use all of this together in one lesson.